A 9-inch chef knife using American steel and a family that's been doing this since 1902. At $166, this isn't budget territory. But today I'm going to take a look at whether or not this knife is worth your money. So we're going back to Eric's junior year of high school psychology, where if we're going to talk about something, then first we must define it. It begs the question, what defines this knife? In my opinion, it starts with its story. Warther Cutlery is a family business based in Dover, Ohio. Their whole story starts back in 1902 when the founder, Ernest Mooney Warther, made a knife for his mother. That move has become a tradition carried on by the third and fourth generations of this family who are still hand-making knives, and each knife has the same attention to detail as the one Ernest Warther had back in 1902. These knives are made in-house using a premium American steel called CPM S35VN. They make about 1,000 knives every week and about 35,000 every year. That information coming from the Times Reporter. They did a feature piece on Warther back in 2017. It's the most recent that I can find for this company. I want to thank the Times Reporter for doing that story and giving Warther the spotlight they so much deserve. Now that you know where the knife comes from, now we actually talk about how it performs. I remember getting this thing back in 2018, fresh out of the box. I will say the packaging did not blow me away, but the knife itself was exceptional. This knife was sharp out of the box. Not surgically sharp, but it was more than enough to make quick work of any kind of onions, potatoes, bell peppers, you name it. It glided through everything. And speaking of that cutting motion, where it excels is that rock and chop. That sliding motion that you can do along the cutting board, it makes everything a dream. It is optimal for that. Now, there are some people who prefer those kind of lightning fast chops that you might see on YouTube, on some YouTube shorts. I don't know who's going to spend $170 for a knife and bang it into their cutting board like that. More power to you. But I think that rock and chop is probably the best way to go when it comes to cutting with this knife. It has a great rocking motion due in large part to how the blade is shaped, and the balance at the heel has it feeling super nimble, very light, no issues at all when it comes to handling this knife. I've used this knife for some long prep sessions, and honestly, it's never been a pain, it's never been a chore. It does its job, and it does its job very well. Let's talk about the steel. This knife is using something called S35VN steel. Some people might not have ever heard of that, which is fair. A lot of knives you might hear about are using VG10. You might also see a different recipe for your Wolfstavs, your Dexter Russells, and other types of knives. The steel itself is known for its corrosion resistance and its edge retention. Now, what that means is that this knife is going to take an edge and it's going to hold it for quite a while. Let's also acknowledge the elephant in the room here. That swirl pattern on this blade. It stands out. It's not your typical Damascus patterning. Ultimately, it's a nod to their craftsmanship. And that's something you're going to see echoed on the handle with that birchwood. Transparently, the handle isn't my favorite. I appreciate the birchwood, but it does make it a little bit old-fashioned for some people. However, it grows on me. I actually do quite like it now. I didn't at the time, I do now. And it's for a simple reason, right? It's a simple knife, it's durable, and it echoes back to the very identity of this company and what that knife is meant to represent. Old-fashioned, but built to last a lifetime. Now, I picked up my knife about 7 years ago at $105. That was in addition to a $15 discount that I also got through the site. If you remember, the price now is about $166. Yes, that is quite the markup, but that's mostly inflation. When you take that $105, that $120-ish total if you were to factor in the coupon, you'll get close to about $153 once you adjust it. And that doesn't even factor in what many small businesses have faced in years like 2020. We don't talk about 2020. But in short, we're talking about supply chain shortages, we're talking about raw material price increases, and we're talking about labor and wages. That's the kind of stuff that really does add up over time. But there's a catch to all this. Because you need to ask yourself, why am I looking at this knife? Why am I looking at this knife in particular? For me, at that point, I really wanted an American-made knife. And at this price point, you have options. I'm talking about brands like Rada, I'm talking about brands like Dexter Russell. Now, if you want an American-made knife but you don't want to pay the price premium for something like Warther, Rada is a great deal. For what you're paying, it is a phenomenal knife. But again, the Warther is a different class of knife entirely. And Dexter Russell has a wide range of knives. I have some Dexter Russell knives that are forged, I have some that are stamped, and I have some that are built like they're ready to be used and abused. Warther is a different option entirely. We're talking small batch, handmade, and family owned. Rada, Dexter Russell, these are all good knives. But with Warther, you're not just buying this knife, you're buying what it represents. All that being said, there are downsides. The biggest one in my opinion is where the handle meets the heel of the blade. At that point, there's a noticeable edge. That could bother some people. It hasn't caused me a whole lot of issues in 7 years, but it's worth pointing out. As I mentioned before, the birchwood handle may not be for everyone. While it's solid, while it's durable, it may not have all the ergonomics that you're looking for in a more modern knife. But for some people, that's okay. These are choices that reflect the history of the company, and I respect that, even if it's not ideal for me personally. So, the Warther 9-inch chef knife. Should you consider it? I think so. If for no other reason, it's a knife built for real kitchens, made with American materials, made by real people. And whether you're a home cook or someone looking to get a gift for someone else, that means something. And that's a rare find. Still, if there's a knife out there that you think might be a better gift, a knife that you really enjoy, let me hear about it in the comments. Appreciate it. Catch you later.